Mark Miller lays out his priorities as he takes on the role of Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Prime Minister Trudeau shuffled Carolyn Bennett out of that position. Patty Hajdu takes on Miller's previous portfolio for Indigenous services. The changes come as calls for justice for residential school survivors and for Ottawa to comply with orders directing it to compensate First Nations children continue. Marion is served as the Chief Commissioner of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. She's in Vancouver. Ms. Buller, thank you so much for speaking with us today. I want to start with your reaction to the new appointments. What do you think about the changes that were made?
My pleasure, Katie. The changes that were made, I think, are welcome changes. With Minister Miller, we have an experienced politician, experienced government minister, cabinet minister. He's certainly well aware of a lot of issues relating to Indigenous people in Canada. With Minister Hajdu, of course, another veteran politician and veteran minister. I think she's going to bring some good insights into her role as minister.
Now, it'll be a few weeks before we get those mandate letters which outline the priorities for each of these ministers. What do you want to see included in those mandate letters?
I hope to see in both mandate letters words such as decolonizing and restructuring and words like self-governance. Those are words that are very important to Indigenous people and for developing new relationships, nation-to-nation relationships between Canada and First Nations and Inuit and Métis people across Canada. So let's keep our fingers crossed that the minister knows those words.
I was going to say, do you have expectation that those words that mean so much will be in there?
Katie, maybe I'm wrong to be hopeful, but how can anyone in politics in Canada, especially federal politics in Canada, not be acquainted with the words like truth, reconciliation, self-governance, decolonization, self-determination? How can they not know those words and the significance of those words?
Carolyn Bennett has been removed from her role. She had been serving as Crown Indigenous Relations Minister. What do you make of that? Leading up to the election campaign, there had been calls for her to resign after a text message that she had sent to then independent MP Jody Wilson-Raybould had been made public. Some First Nation leaders had urged her to resign. What do you make of Carolyn Bennett shifting roles?
Minister Bennett made a huge mistake in sending that text to Jody Wilson-Raybould, our former Attorney General. Indigenous leaders were absolutely right in demanding her resignation. It was a horrible mistake and shows poor judgment just across the board. There's no rationalizing anything good out of that whole transaction. I think the Prime Minister is mindful of the lack of public support for Minister Bennett amongst Indigenous communities, and as a result, moved her to a new post.
The Prime Minister at a news conference today was asked very directly whether his government is going to appeal the recent decision, the federal court ruling on Indigenous child welfare. And his answer, he didn't directly answer the question, but the takeaway from it is that a decision hasn't been made. There is until Friday that a decision has been made. What do you predict the government is going to do here? And if you had any words for cabinet that have to make that decision, what do you want to see?
Well, first of all, I would like to see no notice of appeal filed. I think the government in this case has to back down and say, let's do the right thing and honor the children who have been through the child welfare system, who are now adults, and their families, of course, as well. It's a matter of honor of the Crown, in my view. What will happen, I predict the government will file a notice of appeal and then at some point later, after perhaps some negotiations, withdraw that notice of appeal. But I hope they don't go that far. I hope they do the right thing that all Canadians are calling for them to do.
Why do you expect them to go the route that you're predicting?
Well, by filing an appeal, they're putting a stop, more or less, to the legal proceedings, or letting the legal proceedings catch a breath and let everybody else catch a bit of a breath. Not that really one is needed, in my view. The legal issues are very clear. But I think why they'll do it is just to pause for a moment. I hope they don't. I just hope they do the right thing. But there are some legal concerns with the wording of the judgments and the awards. And that's really where the government is making the fight, is with the wording. But, do the right thing, federal government. Just pay out the money.
This will be the first major decision on a reconciliation issue that it has to come by Friday. This new cabinet is just being sworn in today. From your perspective, what message does this send to the reconciliation effort if there is an appeal by the government?
Oh, if there's an appeal, it's a step backwards, maybe more than one step backwards for reconciliation. First of all, it's ignoring the truth of what's happened in Canada to children who have been in the child welfare system, and placing a higher value on where a comma is in a sentence, or whether a word was used correctly or incorrectly in a legal sense. I think that's horribly wrong to do that to all Canadians, for that matter, but especially for the children who've been through the system and their families and caretakers and caregivers. So, a lot of things shouldn't be in a court, and this is one of them. And that's my message to government.
Marion Buller, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.